Right. Let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty fascinating and complex relationship in the world of hip hop. We're talking Meek Mill and Lil Snoop. Oh, yeah. Meek Mill, of course, the Philly rapper, big energy style, came up through Rick Ross's Maybach music group. And then you have Lil Snoop, up and coming rapper from Louisiana, signed to Meek's own label, Dream Chasers. Tragically, Snoop's career was cut short, way too soon. But even though their time working together was brief, there's this idea out there that Snoop's influence on Meek went, I don't know, deeper than just the music. Right. And that's what we're gonna kind of like dig into. Yeah, there are these claims that Meek Mill's style shifted like significantly after meeting Lil Snoop. And probably kids are what some people are saying that it might not have been just purely inspirational, there might be something else going on here. So specifically, what are we talking about here? What kind of changes did Meek make that have people talking? So like if you think about Lil Snoop's freestyling, he had this really raw energy, kind of like unbridled talent, just pouring out. And after meeting Snoop, Meek's freestyling started to become more energetic, a little less polished. Um, for instance, you can hear the shift on Meek's 2013 mixtape, Dream Chasers 3. Okay, before signing Snoop, Meek's freestyles they were more calculated, I'd say. Yeah, but on Dream Chasers 3, there's this noticeable shift to a roar, like a more aggressive delivery. It wasn't just a coincidence, it sounds like. I mean, the timing is, yeah, pretty suggestive. Yeah, and it goes deeper than just the freestyling too, right? Meek's lyrics and like even the themes he explored, those started to change too. Interesting. So Meek, being from Philly, he was mainly focused on narratives that reflected his environment. Right. Snoop, going from Louisiana, he brought Southern narratives and these themes of struggle and resilience. Yeah. And you start to see these same themes popping up in Meek's work. It's almost like he took pieces of Snoop's Southern storytelling and kind of wove them into his own music. So, for example, like the track Amen from Meek's album Dreams and Nightmares. Yeah, that's a good one. Before meeting Snoop, his lyrics were often about street life in Philadelphia. Right? But in Amen, he goes into themes of like poverty and survival that were more common in Snoop's music. Exactly. I mean, on the surface, it could look like Meek was paying tribute to Snoop. Right. Yeah, evolving his style as any artist does. Yeah. But some people suggest this shift wasn't just artistic evolution. Okay, they're saying it was rooted in something a little darker. Ooh, darker. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Jealousy. Jealousy, wow, now that's a bold claim. Are we talking like straight up rivalry or something more, I don't know, more subtle? Think of it more as like an undercurrent. Okay. The idea that Snoop's talent and his raw ability, the attention he was getting, yeah, that it might have made Meek feel, threatening and a little insecure even. There's this idea that under those public displays of grief after Snoop's death, that Meek might have had these like deeper, more complicated emotions. Right. Almost like that classic story, right? The master and the apprentice. Ooh. But in this case, it's like the music industry. Exactly. But was this jealousy just, people talking, or were there actual examples, concrete examples? Well, there's some claims that Meek would like downplay Snoop's achievements. Yeah, almost like he was trying to minimize Snoop's rising star. Yeah, and there are even stories about Meek trying to outshine Snoop. Wow. During freestyles and performances, almost like he was subconsciously, trying to assert his dominance. So, in other words, there's this idea that even when they were collaborating, there was still this element of competition. Right. And that raises a whole other question. Was Meek genuinely trying to help Snoop rise? Yeah. Or was he using Snoop's talent, to further his own career? That's a question a lot of people are asking. It is. And it leads to an even more serious accusation. Okay, wait on here. What are we talking about here? Postmortem exploitation. Whoa. Okay, now we're getting into some serious territory. Postmortem exploitation. That's pretty heavy stuff. What does that actually mean, like in this specific context? Well, basically, it's this accusation that Meek he kind of capitalized on Snoop's legacy. Okay, after his death, using Snoop's name and this tragic story to boost his own image. So it's not just about the musical influence; it's more than that. Yeah, it's bigger. It's tied into this idea that Meek like absorbed Snoop's style, almost like erasing Snoop's unique contributions, to hip hop. It's like taking inspiration, but to like a whole other level, right? Where the lines between like homage and and straight up appropriation became blurry. This brings up a really interesting point about artistic legacy, right? Especially in hip hop, where you have so much collaboration, so much influence. Right. How do we even begin to separate inspiration from exploitation? Like, where's the line? It's really complex, isn't it? I mean, artists, they're always building on what came before them. Yeah, that's like the heart of creativity. Yeah. But in a situation like this, where one artist, they're not around to speak for themselves. Yeah. It becomes like a super sensitive issue. And then you have the burglary of Lil Snupe's house after his death, which adds like a whole other layer of weirdness. Yes. All of his unreleased music was stolen. Yeah. And that's huge. It's like not only was Snoop robbed of the chance to like shape his own legacy, right? But it potentially prevented, the whole world from hearing music that could have solidified his talent, his contribution to hip hop. It almost makes you think like, did somebody want to silence his voice, like control the narrative even more? Yeah. Which brings us back to that question: who benefits from Snoop's music being gone? Right. It's a question with like no easy answer. I mean, we can speculate, of course, like was it just random or was there something more deliberate, more calculated going on? Was somebody, you know, afraid of what those tracks might reveal? Did they have music that would like challenge the whole Meek Mill and Lil Snoop story as we know it? It's like a musical mystery, right? Full of all these unanswered questions. It really is. It highlights how important it is to like think critically. Yeah. To not just accept things at face value, like look at all the angles, weigh the evidence, and be open to different interpretations. It's easy to get caught up in the sensationalism of it all. Yeah. But it's important to remember we're talking about real people's lives, sounds real legacies. We need to approach this with respect and sensitivity. Right. But at the same time, acknowledging all the, complexities and contradictions. Yeah, I mean, this isn't just about Meek Mill and Lil Snupe, right? This story, it points to bigger issues, of course, within the music industry as a whole. Power dynamics, competition, exploitation, the challenges of preserving a legacy. It really makes you think about how many other artists might have been overshadowed or exploited or even forgotten. Yeah, yeah. Whose voices have been silenced and whose stories are we not hearing? And that's why it's so important to have these discussions, just to bring these issues to light, to challenge the way things are, and to make sure artists are getting recognition for their work. Yeah, and that their legacies are protected. Yeah. So with all of that said, what are some key takeaways? Yeah, for your listeners to really consider here. Yeah, good question. Well, first off, we gotta remember that it's like really hard to prove these accusations. Yeah, jealousy, exploitation, right? We're dealing with like feelings and interpretations of, how people act. Yeah, it's not always black and white, of course. We can't just jump to conclusions based on speculation or rumors. Right. We need to be critical of the information, look for hard evidence. Exactly. Then, then secondly, we need to think about the ethics, right? When it comes to artistic influence and legacy. Yeah, like where is that line between being inspired by someone and ripping them off? How do we make sure artists get credit for their work? Right, that their voices aren't erased. These are questions that we really need to keep talking about. It's not about placing blame. It's about creating a fairer, a more just music industry where every artist is valued, yeah, where they're respected. And so we have more questions now than when we started. Yeah, I know what you mean. But I guess that's kind of the nature of these deep dives, right? Especially when you're looking at something as complex as the music industry, for sure. And in this case, that missing piece, the stolen music, just makes it even more, I don't know, intriguing, right? Like just imagine if those recordings like turned up. Oh man, what would they tell us about Lil Snoop's artistry? About his vision? Would they challenge everything we think we know about the story? Oh, definitely. It's crazy to think about, those tracks could like totally change our perspective. Yeah, maybe shows the depth and complexity we haven't even, yes, it could completely change how we understand his potential. It's hard not to wonder, how those recordings could have changed things, his career, his legacy, even hip hop as a whole. Totally. Would he have like blown up? Would his style have inspired a new generation of artists? It's impossible to know for sure, but it's definitely worth thinking about. Yeah, the fact that his music was stolen, it's a huge loss, not just for Snoop, but for, everyone who loves hip hop. This whole deep dive it's been a lot, right? we've talked about how Meek Mill's style changed, looked at these accusations of jealousy, tried to understand this idea of exploiting someone's legacy after they're gone. We've even, gone down the rabbit hole of speculation and trying to make sense of those stolen recordings. And I think one thing we've really highlighted is how important it is to think critically. Yeah, to really analyze things, to question the information, to consider different points of view, and ultimately to draw your own conclusions. Exactly. We've encouraged people to not just accept things blindly, yeah, but to dig a little deeper. And in doing that, I think Lil Snoop's artistry, his talent, his story, it's all really come at the forefront. Absolutely. And even with all the controversy, all the unanswered questions, his music, it still speaks to people, you know? Yeah, legacy, it lives on. It's a powerful reminder of what music can do, right? It transcends time. It connects with us on such a deep level in ways that words sometimes can't. Totally agree. Yeah. And we may never know the full story of what went down between Meek and Snoop or what happened to those recordings. But the conversations we've had, the questions we've raised, they've shed some light on some really important stuff happening in the music industry. So to all our listeners out there, keep listening, keep questioning, keep Will Smith's memory alive. His story, like his music, deserves to be heard. And who knows, maybe someday those lost tracks will turn up. It would be like a whole new chapter in this crazy story. Until then, we'll keep digging, we'll keep exploring, and we'll keep the conversation going. That's all the time we have for this deep dive, folks. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
Meek Mill's adoption of Lil Snoop's style. Freestyling Meek Mill intentionally adopted Lil Snoop's acclaimed freestyling technique after signing him to Dream Chasers. Snoop's raw, energetic style became a noticeable part of Meek's music, especially in how he approached freestyles post Snoop's involvement in his label. Lyrics and themes. Meek began integrating themes and narratives from Snoop's music into his own, focusing more on the Southern experiences and struggles Snoop often rapped about, despite his own Philadelphia roots. This shift was evident in Meek's lyrics, which began to reflect Snoop's storytelling style, capturing the pain and passion of Snoop's musical narrative. Meek Mill's jealousy towards Lil Snoop, public grief and hidden jealousy. After Snoop's death, Meek's public mourning was a facade for his underlying jealousy. He felt overshadowed by Snoop's rapid rise and undeniable talent, which was becoming more apparent as Snoop gained more recognition. Before Snoop's death, despite signing Snoop to his label and promoting him, Meek harbored jealousy. He was uncomfortable with the attention Snoop was beginning to garner, which he felt threatened his own status in the rap game. This jealousy was evident in Meek's subtle changes in behavior around Snoop, where he would sometimes downplay Snoop's achievements or subtly compete with him during freestyles or performances. Collaborations. In tracks like Nobody Does It Better, Meek ensured that his contributions outshone Snoop's, using these collaborations not just to elevate Snoop, but to keep himself in the limelight, showcasing his jealousy by making sure he was always seen as the dominant force. Post-mortem exploitation. After Snoop's death, Meek capitalized on Snoop's legacy, using his name and story to bolster his own image and music, while also subtly erasing Snoop's unique contributions by molding his style into his own. He included tributes in his albums, but did so in a way that served his. In tracks like Nobody Does It Better, Meek ensured that his contributions outshone Snoop's, using these collaborations not just to elevate Snoop, but to keep himself in the limelight, showcasing his jealousy by making sure he was always seen as the dominant force. Post-mortem exploitation. After Snoop's death, Meek capitalized on Snoop's legacy, using his name and story to bolster his own image and music, while also subtly erasing Snoop's unique contributions by molding his style into his own. He included tributes in his albums, but did so in a way that served his narrative more than genuinely celebrating Snoop's life. Conclusion. Meek Mill's career trajectory post-Snoop was marked by a clear appropriation of Snoop's style and an undercurrent of jealousy that influenced his actions both in public and behind the scenes. Meek's jealousy was a driving force in how he managed Snoop's career and how he continued to shape his own music, ensuring that even in death, Snoop's influence was controlled to benefit Meek's image and career. Meek Mill's adoption of Lil Snoop's style. Freestyling. Meek Mill deliberately adopted Lil Snoop's acclaimed freestyling technique after signing him to Dream Chasers. Snoop's raw, energetic style became a noticeable part of Meek's music, especially in how he approached freestyles post-Snoop's involvement in his label. Lyrics and themes. Meek began integrating themes and narratives from Snoop's music into his own, focusing more on the Southern experiences and struggles Snoop often rapped about despite his own Philadelphia roots. This shift was evident in Meek's lyrics, which began to reflect Snoop's storytelling style, capturing the pain and passion of Snoop's musical narrative. Meek Mill's jealousy towards Lil Snoop. Public grief and hidden jealousy. After Snoop's death, Meek's public mourning was a facade for his underlying jealousy. He felt overshadowed by Snoop's rapid rise and undeniable talent, which was becoming more apparent as Snoop gained more recognition before Snoop's death. Despite signing Snoop to his label and promoting him, Meek harbored jealousy. He was uncomfortable with the attention Snoop was beginning to garner, which he felt threatened his own status in the rap game. This jealousy was evident in Meek's subtle changes in behavior around Snoopa, where he would sometimes downplay Snoop's achievements or subtly compete with him during freestyles or performances. In tracks like Nobody Does It Better, Meek ensured that his contributions outshone Snoop's, using these collaborations not just to elevate Snoop, but to keep himself in the limelight, showcasing his jealousy by making sure he was always seen as the dominant force. Post-mortem exploitation. After Snoop's death, Meek capitalized on Snoop's legacy, using his name and story to bolster his own image and music, while also subtly erasing Snoop's unique contributions by molding his style into his own. He included tributes in his albums, but did so in a way that served his narrative more than genuinely celebrating Snoop's life. We cannot let the legacy of Lil Snoop fade into the shadows while another profits from his talent and pain. It's time for the hip-hop community, Snoop's fans, and all those who cherish genuine artistry to stand up and demand justice for Lil Snoop. His unique voice and story should not be overshadowed or exploited. We must call out the jealousy and appropriation for what it is and ensure that Snoop's contributions are recognized and celebrated in their own right. Avenge Lil Snoop by keeping his memory alive, by supporting true talent, and by challenging those who would use another's light to obscure their own shadows. Let's keep the spirit of Snoop's music alive and uncorrupted by those who would misuse it for personal gain. Remember him, honor him, and let his real story be told. Burglary of Snoop's house. Following Lil Snoop's untimely death, his home was broken into, and all of his music, including unreleased tracks and personal recordings, was stolen. This act further stripped Snoop of his legacy, leaving behind only what was already public or what others had in their possession. Instructions for observing and action. Observe Meek's style evolution. Pay close attention to Meek Mill's music before and after he signed Lil Snoop. Notice how his freestyling, lyrical content, and thematic focus began to reflect Snoop's distinctive style. Look for specific instances where Meek's music post-Snoop mirrors or directly incorporates elements of Snoop's sound. Examine Meek's behavior, review interviews, social media interactions, and concert footage where both artists appear together. Look for signs of Meek's jealousy, such as how he speaks about Snoop, his reactions when Snoop freestyles or performs, and any changes in his support or promotion of Snoop as his popularity grew. Investigate the burglary, research the circumstances around the burglary of Lil Snoop's home after his death. Look for any connections, no matter how subtle, between this event and those who might benefit from removing Snoop's unreleased work from the equation, particularly focusing on who had access to information about where Snoopy lived and stored his music. Support and remember Snoop, engage with Snoop's music, share his story, and demand recognition for his contributions. Support initiatives or movements aimed at preserving his legacy and ensuring that his music and influence are not forgotten or exploited. By doing these things, you can help shed light on the true narrative of Lil Snoop's impact on hip-hop and the injustices done to his memory. Remember, it's crucial to keep the spirit of his music alive while challenging those who would seek to dim it for their own gain. This has been a Sharri Plaza presentation.